Just because you identified a pain point, it does not mean you're going to get a sale unless you start to pick away at it. Good morning, everybody. Today, Ruby and myself are talking about the implications of understanding how painful is the pain that your client or your customer is in, and how important it is to know exactly how that's going to impact what you're going to do from a sales perspective. So for our purposes today, every good salesperson knows how to ask questions. Every good salesperson knows how to present a value. Every good salesperson can talk to something that the client is experiencing. However, the value of doing that to you as a salesperson is to dig into the pain. If the pain is painful, but not really, I stubbed my toe, hurts, but I'll get over it, versus I broke my toe and I'm not going to get over it, and there is a doctor to be involved, now we're talking. So a lot of good salespeople that I've met over the years can talk about what they do very well. They know exactly, they're subject matter experts in their fields, they know exactly what to do. But when it comes to talking to the prospect, sometimes they can stumble with the questions to be asked, the pains to be addressed, and get deep with that. Get deep, not just high level, good conversation, but deep. So when somebody tells you, my toe is hurting, let's get into that. Let's understand more about how it's hurting. Can you move it? Can you twist it? Can you stand on it? Can you walk on it? What are the implications of that for you? So for our purposes today, we're going to talk more about the pains and how those pains implicate us into a sales conversation. So for our purposes, what does that mean as we're getting into a discussion with anybody around the life cycle of a sale? So we have good conversations. It's a good touch point, but then something comes up, something real comes up. And then what do? So the best salespeople that I know hear that, they stop, they think about it, and then they ask, how do we dig deeper on that? Whether that's internally or to the client. And then we start thinking about what do we know and what don't we know? So if we are really good at fixing that problem, then that's easy. Great, let's keep going. Let's get down the rabbit hole. If we're not really good at it, but we still need to know more, if there's other people to be brought to the table, you have to really think deeply about how that's going to happen. And so for most salespeople, that's not a tough discussion, but it's taking that pain point conversation to the nth degree. So again, if you're going to ask me to pay for something, if you're going to ask me to pay to fix my toe, how am I going to do that? What is the implication to me as a business person, as a client, as a prospect, to do that? And if I'm willing to pay $5 to have my toe fixed and you charge $1,500, we've got a problem. So even if the pain is strong, even if we're in a situation that we know there's a problem, everybody in the room agrees there's a problem, how do we make sure that we're getting to the root of that and say, what is it worth to me to fix that? Well, I can't walk. That's worth a lot. I'll limp around for a little while, I'll be all right. That's not worth a lot. So identification of pain is half the battle. Implications of pain is the battle. So we really want to understand more about what does this mean. And so a lot of salespeople can find out that there's pain. They're not really good at picking away at that. And so for our purposes in this discussion, Ruby would like to know, what do you do? How do you get deeper? Because we all know that if there's a pain to be solved, there's a sale to be made. If there's no pain to be solved, well, it's a different discussion. So for our purposes, thinking about that, where do we invest our questions? And do we anticipate how price will implicate into that, in the sense of how do we make sure that pain is as big and as painful as what it is that we do to solve it? And if we're cheap, great. That's an easy conversation. If we're expensive, that's not so easy. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So for our purposes, make sure that you're thinking about that when you're talking to prospects. Where does the pain really come from? How big is that pain? And what do you do to solve it? So this is a big ask for a lot of businesses and a lot of salespeople, because they don't get to the implications of pain deeply enough or strongly enough. This will be how you convert somebody in pain into a sale. A, make the Make the pain as big as possible so that you know that this is something that they will want to address. And then B, establish your value and what that pain solution, that pain reliever, will actually do for them as a business, and make sure that those two things intersect. If I'm not willing to pay to solve my pain, then that's a gap. So A, is it a big enough pain? Maybe. B, are you the right provider? Can I get it done more cheaply? Is that a thing that I care about? Or are you it? You are the best. You are the one. Amazing. Let's continue that conversation. You need to establish those benchmarks for your prospects. And so today, Ruby says, identifying need, identifying pain, not so terrible. Establishing your value to that pain and how severe is that pain, it's where this gets tricky. You can do it. Ask the smart questions, establish your value, make sure that those two things connect. All right, enough for today. Walking and talking with Ruby.